Sports. Howdy, Ags. AP here from the Tailgate, home of Aggie football. Brought to you by David Coffin PLLC, Tax Controversy and Litigation Lawyers, the only tax controversy and litigation lawyers in Bryan College Station. Don't forget to email us at agstailgate@gmail.com. Leave us some commentary on the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the YouTube. First things first, I just want to throw out a little apology to the viewers. Our last podcast, the video was quite poor. We are going through transition, some equipment, cameras, computers, all kinds of stuff, the mic, whatever. Today's will be a lot better. Fingers crossed.
Yep.
So, folks, hang in there with us. I think this should be a better episode. Today, Corey, let's start off. Let's get a little commentary from some of the folks, some things that people said on the YouTube channel.
Yep.
Gig'em Aggies. He feels that Foster's still recovering, says, and getting better. We talked about that. He got better as the game went along.
Yeah.
He also says Wyckoff is a good backup. I would like to say that, look, Wyckoff was playing just as good as Foster. It was not him with the majority of the issues here. It was more from the guard perspective, so that's one thing. And then he also thinks that Max is going to do a little bit better once the wide receivers get back this weekend. We hope so. I mean, obviously, you're starting one of your starting wide receivers, one of your most explosive guys, should help him. I will say, it's not like they were lacking explosive wide receivers, so I'm not sure how much that's going to help. But at least he's going to create more separation than a guy like Price or Lane, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, you get more talent around him, he's going to be better.
Yeah, absolutely. Nuking God, our Miami listener. Sorry about that Miami prediction, Nuking. You lost. Aftermarket Consulting wonders whether we are Aggie fans at all. Apparently, he doesn't really listen much to the podcast. I guess he thought we were the most negative thing he's ever heard. I will say that after an App State loss, there wasn't a whole lot of positive things to talk about. However, if you listen to the show, we did predict that the Aggies were going to win that game.
We did predict the Aggie win, and we were really close to the total, That's really close.
As far as the weather in Austin, which is what he was wanting to know about, I Googled it. I think it's hot. There you go. Okay. A couple of things I want to start off with today, Corey. We are big-time fans of the Aggies, and we listen to some Texags from time to time, and there's a couple of narratives that they go through. Nuno and Billy sort of get into this a little bit that I don't really find are on point. So one of the things that they talked about with regards to this defense last week was saying that this defense was back to wrecking crew.
No.
Let's be clear, they were not the wrecking crew last week.
No.
Did they play well? Yes. Did Miami help them out on some situations? Yes. Did they keep them out of the end zone? Yes. But let's not go wrecking crew.
A bend but not break is not wrecking crew.
Correct.
Wrecking crew is getting in the backfield, causing havoc, causing chaos.
Causing turnovers.
Exactly. And that's what we haven't seen yet. And I think it's coming, but you think it would come against Sam, against App State, and maybe Miami.
The other narrative that they had in talking about this game is Miami's good. Let me give my opinion on that. We don't know a ton about them. We've seen them obviously for 3 weeks. We saw them a lot this past week against the Aggies. Obviously, I think Miami is a flawed team, and by the end of the year, they'll have several losses.
Yeah, they might be a top-level ACC team, but in the SEC, they're below average, I believe.
Yeah.
I mean, they would lose to, I think, Mississippi State, Arkansas, Kentucky, possibly LSU. Who else is over there?
Florida.
Tennessee.
I
mean, it's hard to say that they're a good team. Maybe, if that's ACC, yeah, they're good.
Yeah. Another big talking point of theirs is that Jimbo wins big games, and yes, he has won some big games. There's no denying that. But every game becomes a big game. If you look at last year, a big win in a big game against Alabama, yes. But when you lose to Arkansas, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, and LSU, you can't exactly go through and just say, hey, he wins big games, or big games at home is another thing that they're talking about, right? But
exactly,
it doesn't really add up in those situations. Now, his first year they had the big win. I think that was at Kentucky the first year. That was pretty well ranked, and so there are some wins there, but there's plenty of unnecessary losses. Was it 19 they lost to Auburn? Like that teams that aren't as good. There's plenty of losses in that category as well.
Yeah.
They also sort of start, it's this idea that there's no deep threat without Stewart in the roster or in the ball game, right? And I don't know where this is coming from, but this narrative is everywhere. We're seeing it in the commentary that we're getting. We're seeing it from other media sources and everything else. The fact of the matter is that Anais is probably the biggest producer of big plays on this team. A-Chain is another guy that you can get out there, and if you want to put him in the slot or run him out of the backfield, he can produce some big explosive plays. Obviously, the fastest guy on the team. But Keith Brown is another guy that's had some explosive plays. There's other guys. We've seen Preston and Muhammad both create big plays on offense, and they weren't on the field at all. The fact of the matter is that it's Jimbo's play calling that's been the most consistent thing that shows us that we don't get as many big plays, not the guys that are out there at wide receiver.
You put these Aggie receivers on Tennessee's team right now, the way Tennessee throws the ball around and gets players open, they're having huge seasons. You put those Tennessee receivers on our team, they're doing the same thing they're doing right now.
Absolutely.
It's a play calling. It's all play calling.
It is.
And that's what kills me. I mean, Heupel and Stoops are doing a lot more with a lot less than what we're doing. That's what frustrates us.
Yeah. Another sort of one of their narratives is, getting Foster back was the big reason for improvement on the offensive line. I've said it on multiple occasions. The center has not been the issue. He wasn't great in week 1. He got better in week 2. He's just as good as Foster in week 2 that Foster was in week 3. The problem with that offensive line has been the guard play. And putting Moko in there, starting Moko, was actually a bigger factor this last week than the Foster addition. So that's another thing.
It's not even that. Like we talked about last episode, it's the play calling. They're putting the offensive line in bad situations. I mean, they're loading the box up and you try to run it at them. You only got 5 against 6. It's not going to work. I mean, it's not rocket science.
Yeah. So moving in, let's transition over to what we got coming over this week, right? Mm-hmm. And this is, speaking of big games, probably the biggest game of the season, at least for this week.
Right. Because
we said it last week, right? At this point in time, after a loss to App State, every game is the biggest game of the season. Last week it was Miami. Mm-hmm. This week it's Arkansas. There's no other game that matters other than this one. This is the biggest one.
Right.
And so Arkansas is going to come in. We're at Jerry World in DFW. Mm-hmm. 6 p.m. start. A&M is favored by 2 points. Opened up at -6, by the way.
Yeah.
Over under at 48.5. So, folks at this point are probably pushing towards Arkansas, right?
Big time. If the line starts at 6 and goes down to 2, that's a lot of money going towards Arkansas if it goes down 4 points.
And as we look at this Arkansas team, one of the things that, look, they're undefeated. They beat Cincinnati 31-24. They beat South Carolina 44-30. And then this past week, everybody's looking at this matchup this past week against Missouri State, where the score was 38-7. They were down all the way into the fourth quarter. And folks are saying, well, Arkansas is not as good as advertised. First of all, they've got 2 wins over teams that may be just as good as Miami, and Cincinnati probably better.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So that's one thing. Those 2 wins, by the way, were not even as close as the score showed. Right?
Yeah, Arkansas don't win those games.
Cincinnati was up 31-14 midway through the fourth against Cincinnati. Arkansas was up 31-14,
right.
And Cincinnati got a little bit of some scores late, right? South Carolina, it was 35-16 mid fourth quarter, and they got some scores late.
Right.
You go look at the Missouri State game. They've played two teams that are a lot better than the folks that we've played. And they come into Missouri State. I'm sure they sort of took their foot off the pedal. Right. They were looking ahead a little bit, not necessarily looking ahead to A&M, but definitely discounting who Missouri State was. They had no turnovers in those first two games, by the way, when they were focused and dialed in. And then in the Missouri State game, they had 2 fumbles and an interception. The interception, by the way, not JK's fault.
Or KJ.
KJ's fault. It went right off his tight end's hands into the defensive back's hands.
Right.
So 3 turnovers, and all of a sudden it was a game into the fourth quarter. Well, they buckled down in the fourth quarter and went and took care of business, right?
Right. That's the only thing that slowed down the offense was the turnovers.
Yeah.
Now, the defense had some question marks against Missouri State.
They did, and we'll get into some of the issues with their defense, but I'll tell you this, as you look at, everybody's talking about that defense in general, and they've allowed some passing yards. Once again, those first 2 games, a lot of those passing yards came late. Right?
So teams are behind, they're trying to catch up.
Correct.
Right.
And they're probably playing a little bit less aggressive defense, right?
Yeah.
So all those things come into play. Let me tell you, and I went back and watched this Arkansas team, and I still come away pretty impressed. Look, offensively, especially against Missouri State, they started out, and this is what they do, right? They don't do personnel. They've got a tight end that they feel very comfortable splitting out, but they come out with 3 wide receivers, a tight end, and a tailback.
Mm-hmm.
They feel very comfortable taking that tight end, splitting him out as a receiver. He's a good athlete. He catches the ball. He does all those things. They can put him in the backfield as a second back and have him as a blocking back. They can motion him and do some different things to try to change the strength of the formation. So they feel comfortable with the same personnel, and then what they're going to do is they're going to get up to the line of scrimmage and they're going to snap the ball. I mean, there's plenty of times when these guys are snapping the ball with 30 seconds to go on the play clock. They're usually snapping it with 20 seconds to go on the play clock. The Aggies don't snap it unless there's 5 seconds to go on the play.
Right.
So, they're going to get up there. They're going to move. They're going to let their experienced quarterback get in there, make some plays, call some audibles, set some things up, and roll, right?
Mm-hmm.
Look, they aren't complex in what they do. They use motions and some misdirection with things, but the actual play calls are the same.
Yeah.
The passing schemes are the same. They like to use the play action very well.
Well, they're good at the timing of it. They know They can tell when the defense is starting to creep up, waiting for the run, and they just seem to hit them. They did it last year with Burks over and over. And of course, they don't have him anymore, but they got the other receiver that's big and tall, and he looks pretty impressive.
Yeah, and so they don't try to overcomplicate things, but they do what they do very well.
Yeah.
Right? Something as Aggies we need to understand and sort of put into our playbook, I think. Look, they're also experienced. Everybody other than the tailback Sanders is a junior or a senior. Sanders is a sophomore. Every other starter on that team, on that offense, is a junior or a senior.
You know who else had that?
App State. App State. And what that allows them to do is sort of do all those little things with formations and everything else without having any problems with the folks not knowing where they're going, right? And so it's a pretty big thing. We've talked about it. Experience is important. One of the issues the Aggies have is we are young. We continue to say that, of course, and it's true. And it is true.
Right.
But that also means that as a coaching staff, you should simplify, right? Look, we're going to start with KJ Jefferson because KJ Jefferson is the straw that stirs the drink.
Of course. Well, he is in the offensive line. Between the two, they go hand in hand. They're great. But yeah, I see what you're saying. Go ahead.
Look, and Pittman is an O-line guy.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Oh. He is an O-line guy. That is his thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they, year in and year out, that is one of the top offensive lines in the country because of it. But KJ is a guy that's completing over 70% of his balls.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody talks about the fact that he's just a runner, not a passer.
No.
Go watch him this year.
Yeah.
He has developed as a passer big time.
Yeah.
He's good throwing the ball down the field. He hits his guys. He gives them a chance. He is reading defenses. You go watch him, and he is moving and reading the defense from one receiver to the next, to the next, to the next. And he checks it down when necessary, gets it to that tailback. But if you ask me, he's playing the quarterback position at a very high level.
Well, how are we going to get pressure on this guy? We haven't put pressure on quarterbacks, especially last week. What are we going to do different?
Yeah, and absolutely. So that's going to be one of the first questions of what we do defensively, right? I mean, I think against these guys, you especially on passing downs, you have to bring some pressure. You have to bring some blitzes, whether it's the outside line or the linebackers, whether it's the safeties, the nickel, the corners, whoever. You're going to have to bring pressure to create on him. And here's the other thing: you got to be careful sending those corners because that dude's a big dude.
Yeah,
he may just
hit him and throw him off.
He may just shuck him, right?
See, that's what I think we're going to tell a lot in this game. The first couple of possessions of Arkansas. If we're playing that easy defense where they just let him throw the ball, we're screwed. If we don't get up there and get pressure, we do that 3-man front, and it's over. Because Pittman's going to sit there and run the ball right up the middle as many times as he wants. And once he sees us trying to collapse, over the top.
And here's the thing with KJ, it's not all on him, and they put him in good situations, right? On first down, after they've run the ball and pounded you, they'll go hard play action, and then boom, over the top.
Yep.
Right? They're going to allow him to make big plays, but based off of the situation, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Not necessarily always on passing downs and all those things. They're going to do it in early down situations where it's short yardage, different things to create some of those great opportunities. Look, the other guy that's been huge for this squad is the tailback. Look, Raheem Sanders right now leads the SEC in rushing. The dude has been just phenomenal. And I watched him. Look, he's got size. He's got speed. His vision is improving every day. You see him just start making cuts back and different things, to find those holes. That dude who last year was considered, hey, look, he's a speed guy, this and that as a freshman.
Yep.
He is a full 100% all the way around running back.
Yeah, it's good. We're going to have problems with that.
453 yards on the season so far, 6.7 per carry, 3 touchdowns. That's 147 per game, by the way. That's a pretty good little haul. I think that's what's going to give us some problems, especially if our linebackers aren't playing a lot better, because that dude's going to make you pay.
I see a lot of problems right now. I'm just saying, I see a lot of problems. I see problems with their offensive line, the way our D-line is playing. Not getting any pressure. Standing up against the run, I see problems against that. If our defensive backs are coming up, I'm afraid they're going to take us over the top. I mean, I see a lot of options for Arkansas to score here. And I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy on A&M. What I've seen this year.
Right.
I think it doesn't bode well for A&M right now.
So
unless we make changes.
The place where I don't think that they threaten you as much as at wide receiver. They do have 3 different guys that have 10 or more receptions, right?
But it's not
Trey Knox, the tight end, Hazelwood, the transfer from Oklahoma, Landers actually leads them in receptions. Those guys are there, but they're usually in one-on-one situations, right?
Well, that's the thing is these guys are going to be having their eyes in the backfield, and when the play action pass hits them, it's not the wide receivers that scare me so much. It's our defensive back keeping their eye in the backfield, saying, "Hey, I need to help out on the run."
Right.
Because you've seen Chappelle come up and make plays.
Not to mention the fact that they use their tight end, and we know how well we've covered the tight end so far.
Yep.
So defensively for the Aggies, what do we need to do to improve this situation, to try to get to a place where we're at least holding them on first and second down in that running game and forcing them to be in uncomfortable downs, 3rd and long?
We got to put pressure on. We got to get up there and stop the run. McKinley Jackson's has got to be a dominant player that we think he can be. Regis has done a good job last week. Rake's doing a decent job. They're doing a good job, I think, in that 4-man front stopping the run when there's 4 of them up there. But I want to see guys get pressure in the backfield, tackles for loss, sacks, quarterback pressure, something cause turnovers, but we haven't seen that.
No.
And the thing about Durkin, he's proved us wrong over and over because we're like, oh, he's going to make a change. He hasn't. And that's what frustrates us because he goes that 3-man front again. Here we go.
I think there's 2 things that definitely need to be a part of the focus here. For this defense to be able to hold these guys to, let's say, under 20 points. Under 20 points. To hold them under 20 points, 2 things that need to happen.
Yeah.
If you ask me. One is we have to stay in a 4-man front, right? And like you said, those guys inside, whether it's Regis, whether it's Shamar Turner, Rakes, getting McKinley Jackson back would be huge, right? If Brunlo Dindy, I think, is close to coming back. When he comes back, that'd be great. It looks like Nolan is still out. Getting him back would be another big part of that. And then at defensive end, letting Diggs, letting Stewart, letting Overton, right? Those guys come in and just create some havoc from those defensive ends positions, but just letting them play. And here's the second part, and I think this is even more important and key because those guys up front are going to do what they do. But those 2 linebackers, you got to take all pass responsibilities straight off that linebacker, other than the tailback, basically to where their key is 100% tailback.
Yeah.
So not splitting them, one going one way, reacting to motion, nothing. If the tailback don't move, your eyes don't move, right? If the tailback goes, you both go. Because they have to be a big part of that. And then, obviously, you got to bring down one of those safeties to play the quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Because on all those zone reads, he's always a threat to get out there and run.
Exactly.
And you have to have somebody there to stop that.
I mean, we have the talent and the athletes to man up on this team. I don't understand why we haven't done that this year and impose our will like we talk about every week. We haven't done that, and we should be able to. I mean, we have the talent to do that. We have more talent than Arkansas has.
Yeah,
they're just a better team.
If you were to take recruiting classes as your barometer,
exactly, as your barometer. I mean, we should be a top 5 team if you're doing that.
So, I think if you can do that, and mind you, simplify first and second down for those young guys. Make sure that they know what they're doing where they can just go play. And then third down is when you can get exotic. If you can hold them first and second down early, go get exotic, do whatever the heck you want to, bring guys from wherever, right? Yeah. But you have to hold them to third and long because if you put them in third and short, they're going to run right at you when that happens.
Right, they are.
And we saw what happened against App State and Miami and
happen again. If they don't make changes like we're talking about, the App State game's going to happen again, and we're going to be frustrated because they're going to keep doing the same thing. Pittman will do the same thing over and over. He has the offensive line to do that. He knows how to use his tight end, and he's got a big quarterback. I mean, he can run the ball the whole game probably.
All game.
4 downs. I got 4 downs. I'm going to get a first down.
And so that's going to be the question, right? Can they make those adjustments? And in the secondary, you just got to go man up and play, right? Yeah. You got to go, but you've got one of the best secondaries in the country, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Especially with the freshman back at corner. Now you've got a little bit of depth out there. You've got Chappelle, which has played exceptionally well. You've got Gilbert in the coverage area. Richardson is probably the guy that I would assign to the quarterback. Bring him down in the box to play the quarterback.
Yeah.
With Antonio and whether it's George, Jalen Jones, Harris, some of these other guys at the other corner spot. I mean, you've got guys that can play. You can use Bryce Anderson, who proved that he's ready to roll. And so you've got depth. You've got guys that can play. You've got guys that can cover. Use that to your advantage because you've got to stop the running game against this team.
Yeah, I wouldn't play Russell too much, to be honest with you, this game. The way he's looked in the first few games, out of position, lost. I mean, he's gotten some tackles just because they happen to run it at him.
Yeah.
It's not like he's making a play. They're running the ball at him.
The problem is you don't have another choice, right? White's still out. you don't have a choice. And that's why I said you have to simplify for those linebackers. Take everything else off his script, right? The only thing he should be looking at is the tailback. He doesn't have to adjust for motion. He doesn't have to adjust for anything else. Mm-hmm. Don't worry about misdirection. Don't worry about nothing. Where that tailback goes, you go. And to me, that's got to be the key for those linebackers because you don't have anybody else. It's got to be Russell. It's got to be Lee. I mean, you can try, some of the one of the freshmen, Harris's,
Because Diggs isn't the answer at linebacker like that, trying to cover those guys. No. He's not the answer.
No.
Cooper can. Cooper can absolutely cover a running back. He could cover a tight end if he thought about it, if he could keep an eye on him.
And I'm not too worried about Cooper, right? I mean, Cooper's been pretty good. He hadn't been as good as we hoped he would be because he's not getting protected as much by the defensive line under a three-man line, right?
When you can't, yeah.
So I think you protect those guys and let them run to the ball, but you take all other responsibilities away from them and let them go. Who do you put on the tight end? Well, you put your safety on the tight end, right?
Yeah.
You let the safety go cover the tight end. You let Antonio cover the slot. You've got guys for all those things, whether you flip-flop those guys. So you've got options to do those things. You just have to stop the run. That means those linebackers got to play nothing but the run.
Yeah, let's stop the run and make them beat us with the pass. Is that what you're saying?
So who's your key player for this defense?
Mine, McKinley Jackson. I want to see him in there and dominate the game. I want to see him get in there. I don't understand what happened last week. I understand the first couple of weeks he was hurt.
Yeah.
But we've seen the past of that guy. It's going to take two Arkansas Razorbacks to block this guy, is what we saw in practice. I mean, he's powerful. He's quick.
Yeah.
He causes havoc. I think he can get in there, and he's going to help Cooper more than anybody else because he's going to take on some blockers. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I think McKinley Jackson is my player, and I picked him before. I think it was last week maybe. I don't know.
Oh, he needs to get on the field to be that.
I don't get that.
So, I think because of what I just said a minute ago, I think my key player is exactly the guy you said needs to come up, Russell. I think it has to be him because he's going to be on the field, as it turns out, right? He's one of your two linebackers. Without White in there, he has to play better. And if he doesn't play better, they're going to run the football. That's just the way it's going to go. So my key player is him, which means that the coaching staff needs to take a lot of other crap off his plate, right?
Right.
It needs to be simple, simple, simple. That's your only job.
They should dumb down the whole defense.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, go get them.
Yeah, because and when you come in there and if you want to go third down situations, just sub them all, right? Sub out Russell,
right,
and bring in another DB, right? And now you can get exotic and do the different things you want there. But simplify with your base packages. Go stop the run and force them to throw the football and beat you over the top, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I would force them to beat us throwing the ball and not running the ball. Because if they're running the ball, they're going to dictate the whole game.
Oh, yeah. If they're running the ball, they're going to do both.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I want to say one other thing, and I want to talk about their offensive line for just a second because I think it's a great teaching opportunity here. Go watch their offensive line. And one of the things that you see, while our guys are sitting there and especially those guards are so fast to try to get up to the next level block and get to the linebacker, go watch Arkansas. Those guys are patient. They sit in there. They stay with the defensive lineman, make sure there's no penetration. And when the linebacker becomes a threat, then they'll come off and get him, right? Mm-hmm. They're so technical about how they operate. It's not that they're exceptionally strong and get all this crazy movement, they're just so technical.
Good coaching.
Good coaching.
Great coaching.
Patient to get to that next level. Stay on the defensive line, cut off penetration. Mm-hmm. Do the things you have to do there to control the running game. Go watch them and compare them to the Aggies, and you'll see a big difference. Hopefully the Aggies who have improved over the last few weeks continue to improve and do some more of that. So, all right, let's go to their defense, right? Okay. They base out of 4-2-5. In reality, they probably go about half and half with a three-man line. Mm-hmm. And, they're not overly complex. They bring some blitzes, especially with those linebackers. They do a little bit of stunting inside with their defensive line every once in a while, but they don't do it very, that much. They'll leave the corners on an island, 100%, and let those guys cover. They'll play some zones sometimes. I'll tell you a couple of things that I noticed from this defense.
Go ahead.
First of all, they're all juniors and seniors. They've been around for a bit. They can, they've got experience.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? They've got already 17 sacks on the season.
That's what I was looking up. I was looking to see. I heard something about they might be the top,
17
tops in the nation.
sacks on the season. And their leading sack getter is Sanders, Drew Sanders, the transfer from Alabama. Look, Alabama right now is wondering, why the hell did we let this dude go?
You were talking about him last weekend.
Go watch him on film. He is all over the field, making plays, tackles, sacks. They bring him to pressure. They'll stick him on the outside and let that guy rush the quarterback. He's an incredible athlete for a linebacker his size.
Mm-hmm.
The dude, he is playing out of this world. And alongside Bumper Pool, right? Yep. Who's a darn good linebacker. He's not the same sort of athlete that we get in Sanders, but boy, he's consistent, man. He's always in the right spots. He's downhill. He'll go make some plays. And so that combination for them really, really is what solidifies that defense.
Yeah, Bumper Pool, he's working on his 10th year at Arkansas. He's getting his doctorate. But yeah.
Look, those guys are sort of the guys that keep it moving. They're constantly adjusting folks and doing all those things, right?
They have good linebacker play.
They do have good linebacker. But on top of that, their defensive line has gotten home on some pressure as well, right? Part of that is the fact that they forced teams into passing down.
Right. Allows
them to tee off, right? So once again, offensively, if we get in a situation where it's third and long, boy, hold on, because Max Johnson's going to get killed.
Yeah, and Max ain't afraid to hold on to the ball.
No.
He's not afraid to take a hit.
No. Two defensive ends, Zach Williams, Jordan Dominic, both have created some pressure. Both of those guys will come off in the 3-man line. They'll be in there with the 4-man line, and they really do a good job of getting to the quarterback. So you can't put yourself in situations where those guys are dictating what's happening, right?
So guard play is going to be a big thing for us because I'm not worried about our tackles as much. I'm worried about our guards.
Well, those tackles have to block those defensive ends.
I think the tackles will be fine. They've been fine so far this year. Yeah. Pretty much have held their own. The guard play is where,
and that's where the third down and longs hurt you because that's when they'll take that defensive end, bring them inside, and bring Sanders off from the outside, right? Yep. And all of a sudden now you're starting to create issues with your guards and the different things there. So they're active, right? Everybody wants to talk about how this defense struggles. They are active up front. I will tell you this. Look, their corners are actually pretty good. McCuthern has a couple of picks already. The guy's made some nice plays out there. They leave him on an island a ton, and he's done pretty well. The safeties is really their weak spot. So
can we exploit that?
That's the question. So can you come back and exploit the safeties? Because they're not great cover guys, and a lot of times they're still sitting there one-on-one in coverage because they do so many different things up front. And so if you can take advantage, Anais Smith, by the way.
I was about to ask you, if you're the offensive coordinator or Jimbo, what's your game plan come Saturday? What are you doing to this defense?
Yeah, and so that's the big piece right there. So how do you
attack? Had a good tight end that can go downfield and exploit the safeties, wouldn't it?
How do you attack that group, right? And it does have, and look, the slot position, Anais can have a big game against those guys.
Well, I think a tight end could have a big game.
The tight end could have a big game against those guys. But not only that, you also force them to have to try to make decisions against your guy on the outside and Stewart running the post. Even Keith Brown, whether it's inside or outside, trying to get over the top. So force those guys to help on situations because at the end of the day, if you can't attack them, you're going to have a hard time really establishing yourself offensively.
I think Marshall might be in line for a big game.
Could be Marshall.
I think he might be outside. Not even the outside. I think they might get him more in the slot position coming over the middle because he's a big target.
He is.
And I think he would be a good shot just because I think they're going to key in on the nines.
Let me say this. Somebody has to be on the field other than Chase Lane.
I mean, Chase Lane and Russell are my two players on defense and offense. I just don't get why they're getting so much PT. I understand Russell, we don't have too many other options. Put your best players on the field.
Yeah, we've got plenty of options for Chase Lane.
I've been in business for a while.
Yeah.
You figure it out. If you don't, you fail, you go out of business. That's what you do.
Yeah, no, we've got...
And they're not figuring it out.
That's the whole thing. They've got plenty of options for Chase, right? I mean, you just named one. Marshall is one. But not only Marshall, you've got Yokeith, you've got Moose, you've got Preston.
Yeah.
I mean...
You got Thomas. You got...
I'd rather have Price out there.
Exactly, right? Price.
Noah Thomas.
Price looked like he looked like a willing blocker last week, and that means something to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's a big target.
Especially as we're trying to get the running game going with A-Chain, right?
Yeah.
So as we look at it here, against these guys, I think that has to be your thing. Now, in the running game, what do you got to do? Well, you have to be very careful because they'll sit in there with that three-man line but have three linebackers right behind it, and all of a sudden, you're still sitting there with it, and they're bringing the safeties. They're aggressive with their safeties in the running game. They're bringing them down into the box. They're not, you go watch them even against Missouri State, which obviously isn't, threatening to them, right, as physically anyhow. They were bringing the safety into the box on running downs and letting them play. And so their goal, like most defensive coordinators in football, is we're going to stop the run no matter what. And if you beat us, you're going to beat us throwing the football. Look, have they given up some yards in the passing game? Sure. But, boy, they're whooping up on folks right now.
Well, they gave up 357 yards last week to Missouri State. Not all that was like it was against Cincinnati and South Carolina. Right. That was Missouri. They were moving the ball during the game. We watched that, and we were like, what is this guy's doing? Besides Arkansas turning the ball over to him, Missouri was taking advantage of those mistakes. They were getting their guys open. They were throwing the ball all over the field.
So I think
they didn't run the ball.
I think that with their defense, for us as a running team, I think one thing that would help, especially in situations where they're in a three-man line, is have a lead blocker in the backfield, right? Whether that's the tight end sitting in the backfield or that's,
Max Wright,
24, the other tailback, crown over in the backfield as the lead blocker, right? Whatever it is, doing some of that along with some man running schemes to attack the gaps in the defensive line and be able to account for those second levels without having to send your offensive linemen straight to them, right?
So I like what you're saying with that. I mean, I'd like to see Max Wright as that fullback almost and put Green at a tight end. I think Green's more of a receiving option, and Max can still, after the block, he can
absolutely
get a couple yards if he has to, turn around and make a pass. We saw him do it before. Last year, I mean, I think they handed the ball to Max or did something silly. It wasn't good. It didn't turn out right.
And that's sort of my point, right? I think you can attack that part of the defense doing those sorts of things. The other thing that can come into play is the quarterback run on the reads. He had a couple of opportunities to pull. He did on one. He got a good game this last week. Held it or gave it on the other, and would have had, I think, a lot of room to run if he had kept it. But implementing some of that could help. But I think more than that, power running game with a lead back.
I like it. I think we need to go more tempo too. A little bit something to get rhythm because we don't look like we're in a rhythm on offense. And when we do
follow
look
up
like
big plays, right?
Yeah, when we look like we get a rhythm going, it just our pace kills it. It's like, oh, okay,
that's a great point. Using big plays to create tempo, right? Yeah. Anytime you get a 10-yard play, boom, get to the line, get to the next one. And just don't allow that defense to sit there and reorganize, recover, redo, get ready to play again. Get back on the line of scrimmage, force them to do it on the run, and get after their butts.
Because one of the things we talked about this Aggie team in the preseason was our depth. And we're not using that to our advantage because we're not doing pace.
Yeah.
And something Arkansas doesn't have that we do have is depth. If we get up there and we're running, we got to run more than 52 plays on offense. We got to run 70.
You got to get first
75,
down.
80. Yes, exactly.
You got to get first down.
But I mean, I'm saying you got to wear that defense out. Let's get pull tired. Let's get that. What's that other linebacker thing?
Sanders.
Let's get them tired. Let's get them run all over the field. I'm talking. Let's get them sideline to sideline. Let's get those guards up in the second level and knock them on their ass. You know
Absolutely.
what
And here's the other thing. Don't be afraid to use some of those bigger backs. And, with A-Chain, that's the other thing. Sanders will run sideline to sideline.
Yeah.
You're almost better off sometimes attacking right at him,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And forcing them to be more physical.
Mm-hmm.
So, whether it's with A-Chain or whatever, but, having the lead block and doing those things, also using more of the gap scheme where they're power and things so that you're pulling those guards and tackle in through the hole, right? And getting somebody, a tight end, up in through the hole right at that tight end, forcing that guy to. Another thing that helps in situations where you've got those guys that can run like that and constant misdirection, right?
Right.
Misdirections. Force them, get them running one way and come back the other. And so using some of that misdirection against that very aggressive defense.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe it's a little wide receiver sweep coming as you fake the run to A-Chain, or fake the sweep, give the run to A-Chain, just to take him off their rhythm, right?
We can't get behind the chains in this game because that defense is just going to pin their ears back, come after Max. Because we can't abandon the running game. Jimbo can't get pass happy. We gotta get in 2nd and 7, 2nd and 6, 3rd and 3. You know what I'm saying? Short field.
Yep.
Give us an option to get a first down. Then we start getting 2nd and 13. 3rd and 9.
Here's another key piece, and I think this is big. And you said this last week, and they did it a little bit last week.
What's up?
But getting Max out from behind the offensive line,
Mm-hmm.
boot, play action boot. Yeah. Do some
Who's expecting them to do that? They're not expecting them to do that. They expect that with Haynes King. They
put him on the move.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean on the move to run. On the move to pass.
Yeah,
right?
exactly, to the left. He's a lefty. You can't be. Most quarterbacks roll to the right because they're right-handed, right?
Mm-hmm.
You roll out. Want to 30. Let's get him to the left. Let's get the little tight end.
Play action. Yeah. Boot around and over the top, because that gives you the misdirection, gets the flow going in one way.
Yeah.
And then
I like
gives you an opportunity back there. So those are just some things. Look,
I'll call Jimbo there.
Those are just some things that can help. Obviously, their aggressive nature hurts a double move with some max protection because of the fact that they play so much man on the outside.
Yeah.
But boom, let's go get a big one, right?
Because that's something Stewart and Smith can do as a double move. I don't know why we don't do that, because Stewart and Smith both have the quickness to do a double move. But they can't do it too quick to where the defensive back doesn't have time to react to it. They got to sell it, during the game.
And that's one of those other things, like especially like on play actions, flea flickers, double moves. You get some teams that are really good at it because those receivers or the tight ends that are going to get the ball don't get overly excited. With us, our guys just run the route like it's a normal ass route.
Exactly.
Like, it's like, I'm gonna come off the ball sort of easy peasy. Oh, I'm blocking, and then all of a sudden, boom.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Sell it. Take your time, because those plays take longer to develop anyway. You don't want to be too far down the field.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And they don't need a whole lot of space, because they'll make the space while the ball's in the air if they have to. They'll sit there and they'll get their distance. If you're running side by side Stewart or Smith, I'm going to pick Stewart or Smith in a foot race.
Yeah, not to mention
A-Chain.
Both of those guys have shown that they can go up and get a ball too.
Exactly.
And use the size for Price, use the size for Marshall, right?
Green.
So those guys have the size that you can go throw the ball up a little bit and go let them make a play against those safeties that aren't as good in coverage and aren't going to be
give them a shot. We got the talent. I'd like to see Max, take a shot. Pull a Haynes King out in this kind of game. I'm not saying put our defense in a bad situation, but we need to take shots when we get them, and we got to capitalize on those shots. That's the only way I see us competing and winning this game.
Look, offensive line-wise, I want to see another week of improvement, right? I want to see another week of improvement. I want to see more Moko than Aki. I want to see no Aki, to tell you the truth. And at this point in time, I know who the better player is, and those guys have to start to gel together, right? Because eventually offensive line play, as much as you want to get guys reps, do it in garbage time, whatever, because those guys have to learn to work together. The combo blocks are a big piece. We talked about sort of being patient and how you work with that center or that tackle to get up to the next level. Well, that takes time. sometimes we talked about it when I was coaching offensive line back in the day. It's almost a feel, right? So as he's overtaking, he can almost, and now you know what that feels like, right? And those guys start to work together, and all of a sudden they don't even have to communicate verbally that much. What they're doing is just communicating through body control, right? And so that's where they have to get at some point this season. When they're sitting in there, boom, pass block, and here this guy's coming and stunting, that feel of passing it over from me to him, and still you being ready for that next one coming over the top because he's coming, right?
Right.
So all that is part of that, familiarity. It's reps. It's just doing it over and over again in big situations. And for me, you can only do that by having the same group up there all the time. So now it's time to let those guys play, keep them in the ball game, let it go. Right?
Let's do it.
All right. So who's your key offensive player for Saturday? Who's the key?
I mean, I like Marshall at wide receiver, but my key is Max Johnson. Max Johnson reading this defense, getting us out of the right sets, almost being the coach on the field, looking at what they're bringing to him, and his experience hopefully can do that, and getting the ball to the tight ends and the bigger receivers and taking shots downfield, play action.
I like where your head's at. I'm going to go Anais Smith. I'm going to go Anais Smith because I think Anais can absolutely dominate these safeties. Not only that, but he can be that second back at times. He can do some things with a wide receiver sweep or some jet motions, some different things. I think Anais Smith has an opportunity to be a big play guy on Saturday, and I wouldn't be surprised if one of the tight ends gets a little bit more involved either.
Well, the only problem I had with Anais was I think that the defense is going to key on him so much. That's why I think somebody like Marshall or even Stewart, Green, somebody's going to have a bigger game. Somebody, because I think they're going to maybe double team Anais because what they've watched. If you watch the same tape we've been watching, Anais is who they're looking for.
And he's my guy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to double that guy.
All right, so score prediction. Look, here's the thing. This offense has to score more than 20 points to win this game. I love our defense. Don't get me wrong. I love our defense. They're going to have to score more than 20 points to win this game.
The offense needs to keep the defense off the field.
Yeah.
They need to sustain drives. I think Max Johnson's going to throw. I think he's going to have his best game yet. I mean, best game yet. It's only his second. But I think
he threw for 140 yards last week. So
I think he's going to double that output. I think he's going to double.
He's going to go double?
I think he's going to almost. I think the final score in this game, I'm not high on the Aggies. I mean, I'm going to say Aggies 28-27. Close game. Aggies pull it out at the end. Somehow. I think the first half, we'll see. We'll tell the tale in this game in the first quarter.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll tell right now. I mean, if I'm betting this game, I'm taking the first half Arkansas line because I'm going to get plus points, and I think Arkansas is going to come out and do their thing. And if we can't make adjustments, we're screwed. So I think 28-27 is my bet. The Aggies. But now,
look, everybody's going to call me a negative Nancy and everything else, and they're going to say I'm a Longhorn or whatever.
Yeah.
But
how's the weather in Austin?
It's hot. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
From what I've seen this season from these two teams, Arkansas is the better team right now. They're more experienced. They have something that they believe in and do well and do it over and over again.
Yeah.
They're consistent. I haven't seen our offense, anything from our offense that tells me we're going to score 25 points. We're going to need to.
Mm-hmm.
I think let's go 25-17. Arkansas.
Okay.
And by the way, Arkansas plays Alabama next week.
So they might be looking ahead, but after what I saw from Arkansas last week, their defense looks vulnerable. That's what I like. I like that. I think that we can take advantage of it. I don't know if we will. I don't know if our coaching staff is
Unfortunately,
capable.
they're vulnerable. They're vulnerable in the passing game, which we can't exploit. So
we can't exploit
anything
right now. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, no, and look, I expect the offense to be better this week than they were last week. I do. I just don't expect them to be.
You got Foster back. I mean, those.
I don't expect them
to get gone.
Right. I don't expect them to be that much better. So
get gone.
I just.
You like that?
That's my prediction.
Yeah.
All right. So Corey, you know we love this segment. Glacio bets, boy.
Ready.
All right, Georgia minus 45 against Kent State, 62 over under.
I think Kent State's quick pace offense is going to give that Georgia team the ball a lot. I mean,
I'm taking Georgia all day.
All day. I mean, unless that line's like 100.
Kent State's lost a game by 40 already this year to somebody a whole lot less good than Georgia. So
yeah,
I'm going to take Georgia. By the way,
maybe the over too.
Bennett maybe trying to get himself in the Heisman conversation.
Bowers is awesome, best player most physically gifted guy I've seen this year. He's amazing.
Missouri at Auburn. Auburn's minus 7, 51.5.
You're not going to like it, but I'm taking Auburn. I don't think Missouri. I think Missouri's right on the FCS level right now.
Yeah, they're not good, and Auburn's about to fire their coach. I mean, I think the whole thing's coming apart.
Yeah,
maybe Auburn can lean on their running game to win this. I don't know if
Auburn
I take them at minus 7.
They have more talent than Missouri. They should beat Missouri.
I'm probably not going to bet that game, but that's just me.
No, you probably will.
Might probably will. Bowling Green at Mississippi State. Mississippi State's minus 30, 52 over under. 30 is a lot of points. Bowling Green is horrible, so I would take Mississippi State.
Yeah, I just don't know. Mike Leach, what I saw last week, I mean, the offense is the same thing he runs over and over. He ran the ball more, but he still has problems. I mean, he gets the ball from the 20 to the 20 real well, but once inside the 20, he doesn't. He can't get the ball in the end zone. He'll run it 4 plays, or he'll run on 4th down and go for it, but he doesn't get it.
Yeah, the thing that I get here is that against teams of this ilk, he's usually pretty good.
Gotcha.
Florida at Tennessee. Tennessee's minus 10.5, 62 over under.
Man,
you love Tennessee, don't you?
I love Tennessee. I'll probably put that one in a teaser, to be honest with you. 10-point teaser, bring it down to a half point, have Tennessee. Because that's...
I like the over, by the way.
What are you going to see in that... Well, Tennessee might get the over themselves.
Yeah, I like the over.
Yeah.
And Tennessee's not exactly a defensive juggernaut, so...
Yeah,
give me some points.
Will be running.
Yeah. Tulsa at Ole Miss, minus 21.5 for Ole Miss. 65.5 is the over-under.
I don't know anything about Tulsa. I mean, give me Ole Miss. Ole Miss has been dominating teams.
Sure. They haven't played anybody, but sure.
Yeah.
Go with it. Northern Illinois at Kentucky. Kentucky's minus 26.5, 53.5 over-under.
Northern Illinois just lost to Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I
don't
love the game, but I'd probably take Kentucky.
Yeah, I'd take Kentucky too.
Vandy at Bama. Bama's minus 40.5. Over-under, 58.5.
These are the kind of games where Nick Saban gets it in cruise control in the second half and usually doesn't score maybe a touchdown, and other team ends up with a backdoor cover, is what they call it. I'm
going Vandy.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of points.
I think 40.5 is too many points. I think Vandy's better than they were last year. I think Bama's got some issues. All that to say, Bama's going to win big. It's just not going to be 40
Vandy doesn't have much to play for. They already hit their win total, haven't they?
They did. Hey, that's a big time bet already hit.
Duke hit their win total. Vandy. Who was the other team? Kansas? I think
Kansas.
We had a couple.
New Mexico at LSU. LSU minus 31.5, 45.5 over under.
New Mexico is always one of the worst teams in the nation.
They're 2-1.
I don't care.
31.5 is a lot of points though, but probably still take LSU. No. Charlotte's at South Carolina minus 22.5, 68 over under.
They benched Rattler last week. I mean, against Georgia.
I'm pretty sure it was because they were already that game was over.
I mean, South Carolina's talent level is getting better. I mean, South Carolina's going to win this game. I don't know if they'll win it by.
That's a lot of points.
Yeah, for that team.
All right, so that's the SEC.
Yeah.
All right, here's some national games.
Go ahead.
Clemson minus 7 at Wake, 55.5 over under.
Clemson, man, they have a hard time scoring the ball. They're going to run and they have a good defense. I'll probably take Clemson.
I've been back and forth today on this one, and I've been back and forth on two sides. One is the over-under, which is pretty low at 55.5.
I know, you're always over.
Wake is supposed to be this kind of team that can score, get the ball up and down the field. They like to use tempo, all those things. But Clemson is known for their defense.
Exactly.
Clemson is known for their defense, and their offense hasn't been.
Well, they're going to run the ball. They have good running backs, decent running game. That Ugalele guy, he hasn't impressed me at all.
And that sounds like you're leaning towards Wake. And 7 points?
No, I'm leaning towards.
I don't know. You're leaning towards the under?
Maybe the under, and I think that defense is going to get the ball back in good position where they can.
On the other side, though, this is probably the first test that defense really gets this year, right?
Yeah, but Wake just doesn't have the studs.
Baylor at Iowa State Iowa State's -3 at home, plus or minus a 45.
And Iowa State, I mean, they're okay. I mean, they lost Purdy, they lost Hall, their running back. That's a lot to give. That's a lot.
Baylor
to
hadn't
lose.
looked great. They lost to Utah. Who was it? BYU, and BYU then got tronched by Oregon. So
I'd take Baylor. Who you like? You like Iowa State?
I'm probably staying away from it. Texas -6.5 at Tech, 60 points over under.
I saw Tech play last week. Looked awful. If that quarterback's playing, I'm not touching Tech. I'm taking Texas.
I'd probably take Texas. Yeah.
We'll see.
I will say this: 6.5 is not a ton of points. And they're going to Lubbock. Is
that the over/under?
Yeah.
I like the over.
They're going to Lubbock, and I think that's a
chaos always happens out there.
Yeah.
I mean, something stupid happens.
It's crazy.
I mean, I don't understand it. Tortillas are flying or whatever. I don't know what they get. Flapjacks, something's flying out there. They're idiots.
Oregon -6.5 at Washington State.
Washington State's been pretty impressive.
I'm taking Washington State.
Yeah, I like that one.
All day, every day.
Yeah.
Wisconsin OSU -18.5.
Oh, Ohio State all day, man.
I'm sort of leading the other way.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I know Wisconsin's got a loss to them, but they usually play pretty good defense. 18.5 is a lot.
Wisconsin lost to Washington State.
Yes, they did.
Ohio State, did you not? They scored 77 points last week. Their offense is starting to ramp up.
So who are you taking?
I'm taking Ohio State.
I'm taking Wisconsin.
You're
Here we
wrong.
go. We're on. K-State at Oklahoma -13.
Oh, Oklahoma looked really good last week. K-State lost to
I'll take Oklahoma on that all day.
Lost to Tulane.
USC -7. Oregon State.
Ooh, Oregon State's not bad. USC
Over under 71.
What's the rule about 70?
The rule is take the over when Oregon State plays USC.
Oh, I don't know about that.
All right. Questions from the tailgate brought to you by Frida Homes, building Aggie dreams. FridaHomes.com. Give them a call. Take a look at the website. See what's going on. All right. Question number 1. Any chance we catch Arkansas looking ahead to Bama?
Yeah, I already said 28-27 final score. Aggies, we're going to sustain drives. Max Johnson will have his best game yet.
I think y'all heard me the first time.
Durkin and Jimbo are going to watch the podcast and learn something, and we're going to win.
Look, is there a chance? No. I don't think they're looking ahead to Bama at all. One thing is that this has been their rivalry, right? This has been their game, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They get pissed because we won whatever
We're getting
many
their
in a row.
recruits. They want the recruits we have. They're mad about that.
Look, they won one last year. It's the first time since we've been in the SEC. They're not looking over the Aggies because this is the game that they have to win. Yeah. I think there's no chance they look ahead to Bama.
Yeah.
Is this, question number 2, is this the biggest game of the season?
Yeah, by far. If we lose this game, or whatever happens in this game, we fall to 2-2. We still got Bama, Mississippi State, LSU, other teams. I mean, this is the best team we've played so far. This is App State on steroids. You know what I'm saying? And that wasn't good at App State.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm just saying. Yeah,
I think
this is our
is.
biggest game. If we lose this game,
look, and I think it's more than just win-loss, right? I mean, even if they lose in a close game and they play well, they play better, I think you still have a lot to look forward to because as we talked about in the last podcast, a lot of the teams that we're facing later in the season have had issues. All of them, really. So there's nobody out there that you just say, man, they're not beatable at all. Now, they can also all turn around and beat you.
right?
But if you don't show a good amount of improvement this week, I think that really puts a damper on your season. So it's big on how they perform and how
we can win this game.
We can win this game.
If we ug it up, we can ugly this game up like we did last week. We can win. Now
is Arkansas a rival? Like our primary rival?
Right now, no. LSU.
Still LSU? Yeah, love it. Well, Big Aggies, AP, Corey, signing out from the tailgate.
Holla.